Spring! It's a Joel Kiviranta hat trick, and one that doesn't end the season for the Avs. And this one ends up being with, well, not one, but two empty net goals. I believe Nikita Kucherov did it earlier this season where he had a hat trick where he scored two in the empty net, helping him net the nickname the Empty Net Merchant. Joel Kiviranta does it tonight for the Avs. Cale Makar, a goal and 2 assists. Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon both have 2 assists nights to continue their torrid pace in the month of December. And going into the break, don't look now, but the Avalanche have won 7 of 9. The goaltending is still solid, and they continue to climb in the standings of the Western Conference and certainly in the Central Division.
Yeah, Yoel Kiviranta, 5 goals in his last 2 games, I believe. Had the 2 goals in San Jose, gets a hat trick tonight. The Avs love the empty net hat trick. They love the empty net hat trick. Mikko Rantanen's going to make a lot of money on empty net hat tricks. And Kivy was funny after the game, talking in the arena, getting the post-game interview. And he's like, he says something along the lines of like, it feels good to get a hat trick in this uniform. I don't know if some of you remember the last one I had.
Yeah, fuck off, Joel. You don't need to bring that up.
Well,
let the past be the past.
I always forget that it was a hat trick that he scored. I remember, he scored there was a game-tying goal in the bubble, and then it was the game winner, and was it a game 7? But, I mean, Michael Hutchinson was in net, and it was the bubble.
It was game 7, and if I'm correct, that was it was either his NHL debut or it was certainly his NHL postseason debut. He was a guy that shouldn't have been on Dallas's roster, and they just went, this guy, you go play tonight. And he showed up and he buried 3.
He was their Prishapov, a guy who's like, hey, why are you playing for us right now? Due to extenuating circumstances. 10 goals on the season now for Yoel Kiviranta. Dude, it's not even 2025. We're not at the halfway point of the season yet. He's on pace for 20 plus. I mean, you take that all day from Yoel Kiviranta. At least I don't think we're at the halfway point of the season.
It was Kiviranta's 3rd playoff game spring that he had played in that year. 3rd playoff game. He showed up in 11 regular season games in 2020. And then he had 1 game against St. Louis, 1 game against Calgary, right? Because that was the weird bubble where you had you played a few teams on little one-offs, and then he scores in game 7 against Colorado. Yeah, a hat trick in 14 minutes of time on ice.
And also Connor making some good allusion to, it's the Noel time of year. Christmas is on Wednesday. Yoel, Noel. It's just written in the stars what's happening here. Speaking of the stars, we were kind of just talking about that. And so, he signs with the Avs for a nothing deal. And Cogliano's gone. Darren Helm's long gone. You're looking for those scrappy bottom 6 wingers, and he's developing before our very eyes into just that. How are they going to replace Cogliano, Helm? Kiviranta is going to be that for the 4th line when everyone's healthy. He's playing on the 3rd line now. Maybe he sticks there. Maybe he's a perma 3rd line guy. I mean, he's probably going to be on the 4th, when Miles Wood is back, when Jonathan Drouin is back, and freaking Ross Colton is centering your 3rd line. And then Kivy's down there on the 4th. It's going to be, when you talk about depth, you get 10 goals from Yoel Kiviranta. Good night. That's depth.
Yeah, I know he's had a lot of them on the empty net at this point, obviously with 2 of them going for the hat trick this evening. But he was one of those players that I thought he was one of the best players in the Winnipeg series, without a doubt, in terms of your depth pieces. He's never going to be a top 6 player. That's not who he is. He is a He's a bottom six forward in this league for as long as he's going to stay in the NHL. And that's fine. You can carve out a good 5, 7, 10-year career living in the bottom six. He's perfect as a Swiss Army knife in your fourth line, right? He kills penalties. He can play upwards of 10, 12, 15 minutes if you really need that out of him. He is defensive. He's defensive minded first and foremost. Like that's the big thing that you need out of your bottom six players. And he's shown that he can step up in big times. I thought the pass from Mikko Rantanen was good, not great on the 2-on-1, and he handled it awesome. Like that puck's a little bit behind his feet. Still good pass from Mikko. Not an easy one time to make and bury that thing, considering how high it came and how early it came in the zone. Nice little snap that he had on that 2-on-1 goal, the actual goal that he scored against a goaltender this evening.
Yes, the 5-on-5 goal that he scored this evening. So yeah, Yoel Kiviranta, love to see it. Val Nichushkin just remains as steady can be, scoring again, his 11th of the season. He's on a tear the last month or so. 4 shots on goal. That's second to only Kiviranta for forwards, who had 5 shots on goal. Yoel had 5, Nichushkin 4, Makar had 7 on net. So, Nichushkin was out tonight. Makar was out tonight with a goal and 2 assists for Kale. Those have been their 2 best players of late. The sands for the explosion of Yoel Kiviranta, Nichushkin and Makar. They've been carrying this team of late. They did it again tonight.
Nichushkin just goes to the right places that you need to go to score goals, right? You go to the net front, especially when you're playing with a guy like Nathan MacKinnon, who's going to drive the puck wide, try and throw honestly, sometimes some garbage pucks at the net, just hoping that a bounce goes. That's what handcuffing Nichushkin to MacKinnon does. Is it allows Nate to not have to make the perfect play to score a goal, right? Like I'm not saying this to slight a guy like Drouin, or maybe even to slight a guy like Mikko Rantanen. When either one of those 2 guys is playing with Nate, typically you're going to see more of those goals where one guy walks a defender and then you see a slid pass through a triangle to a perfectly placed, like cutting down player, and they score in an odd man rush, or they score on the backdoor opportunity where it just looks aesthetically pleasing. Nichushkin's not that guy. Can he score those goals? Of course he can. We've seen him score those goals countless times as an Av. But what he does is he opens up that page of the Nathan MacKinnon book, is that like Nate can just throw something from a shitty area to a bad spot of the ice, hoping that it hits a foot or a pad or a goalie's blocker, knowing that 13 is going to be crashing the blue paint. I think it's a really, really big reason why MacKinnon just continues to pile up points. He's got more points than any NHL player in the month of December. He's got like 23 of them now, something crazy like that. And it's in large part because he's got a guy like Val.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, maybe they should play together more. I know that they want to go MacKinnon, Rantanen, Lehkonen, but Nichushkin and, Middlestat continues to just kind of be there on the second line. Yet another 0 across the board night for Casey Middlestat. No shots on goal. 1 shot missed the net. Ross Colton hasn't been as impactful since coming back. He's got a goal or 2. Nichushkin has flourished on that second line despite that, finding himself on the ice with Nate there. Nichushkin's your 3rd best player. You really want to beast up that top line. It's Nichushkin, Rantanen, MacKinnon is what you do. And then Nichushkin is net front on the Cale Makar power play goal. So it's just in and around the front of the net is where Nichushkin eats, and he's so poised. He knows that MacKinnon is going to fire one on net. He's looking for the rebound the entire way. Doesn't phase him for a second, gathers it, puts it in. So again, it's Makar, it's Nichushkin offensively tonight. Shout out to Parker Kelly earning the penalty that put the Avs on that power play that got them their opening goal. Nice little puck handling move for Parker Kelly to kind of spin it back to the outside of the ice, and that draws the trip. Devon Taves makes the play defensively for the turnover. So they were strong defensively tonight. What are the shots on goal for Seattle, 19.
19 total.
19, only 19 shots on goal. And, I talked about the other night how, when you're on the road, I mean, the Avs are a team that can definitely, buck, what is usually you're going to get outshot on the road. The Avs can, they're the type of team that can outshoot you on the road, but typically on the road, you're going to get outshot. That's what happened in their last 2 road games, but they've still got 4 points. You're at home, you should outshoot your opponent significantly, and they did tonight, outshooting him 29-19. Not much for Blackwood. Had some good saves, had a really nice sprawling save in the third period. But look, one of the goals that goes in on Blackwood is a blind face-off win. And hey, I will root for Capo Caco goals. I mean, especially when they don't result in any points for Seattle. I want Capo Caco to flourish with the Kraken. And for the Rangers, who are now 4-12-0 in their last 16 games, to rue the Capo Caco trade. I'm rooting for it.
Yeah, that's the goal that Blackwood certainly wants back. The one he wasn't ever going to save was the first goal of the game that tied it. Like, that was a blown coverage in front where you had both Gerard and Rantanen crashing to the net, and neither one of them shoulder checked to see where the trailing player was. And that was Jared McCann, I think, scored that one. And that's a guy who he's got 40 goal power in this league, Jared McCann, if he stays completely healthy for a full season. I don't know how many more he's going to sniff, but he definitely has it in his game. He's not missing that. Like, Blackwood had no chance to save that puck. The Kakko goal, if it was a better shot, I would have said, hey, you're screened. It comes off quick. It goes under his pad. That's one that you really want back. That's one that I would have eviscerated Georgiev for. It was a bad goal. But from that point on, I don't think he saw it either. No, it was very quick. I don't think he saw it. I just don't like the fact that
it's right off of a face-off win in the D zone. I think he was caught off guard that it was like face-off win. Oh, shit. Here's a puck through all of those bodies near the face-off circle. Oh, crap, it's under my pad.
But to his credit, right after that, like, I thought Seattle had really good legs. For a team that did not create a lot of shots tonight, they created a lot of grade A scoring opportunities. Natural Stat Trick has them at 11 high danger scoring opportunities tonight on just 19 shots on goal. And I felt that way in the third period when I looked up and I was like, he's only seen 12 shots. There was a point early on, even like close to midway through that second period, where Seattle had 2 goals on 5 shots. And I went, it feels like they have so many more because Seattle's legs were going. They were buzzing. I really liked their energy this evening. They just didn't put the puck at the net unless it was a grade A opportunity. Right after he lets that Kakko goal in, Oliver Bjorkstrand has a chance right in front of the net. Another one where the Avs zone defense in the D zone, making sure that you have your layers coming out of the corners, just lost a guy in the soft area in between the hash marks. Bjorkstrand gets every piece of it from point blank range. And Blackwood's right there to make the save. Like, after the Kakko goal, he nailed it down when he needed to. And that's all the Avs need.
So the Avs sweep the season series against the Kraken, faced them in Seattle in early November on Election Day. And Avs win 6-3. They beat Philip Grubauer. Tonight at home, they beat Joey Decord, who is like a solid, sneaky, underrated goaltender. But I just find it interesting that Seattle signed Grubauer to a 6-year, just over $35 million contract with the cap hit AAV of $5.9 million. And, they're starting both goaltenders in Seattle, but Decord appears to be the 1A. He looking at their game log here, it appears Decord is, and it checks out. It seems like he's starting most nights when I check in on the Kraken. Grubauer's their backup, making $5.9 million. They signed Joey Decord in the offseason to a 5-year, $25 million deal. So that's $5 million on the AAV. He's a little cheaper than Grubauer, yet he's their one. So, you just look back years ago when, they don't re-sign Grubauer and look at where he is now. He's a fine goaltender, but he's an overpaid backup right now is what he is. When you look at Mackenzie Blackwood, Raj, and you see $5 million per for Decord, 5.9 for Grubauer. What do you think Blackwood's looking at if he hit the market today? Or even, let's say, what happens if he continues to play well for the Avs, and what do you think the price could be then?
So his current cap hit right now is a 2-year deal worth $4.7 million total, or just under 4.7. So he's making 2.35 against the cap on an average annual basis this year. If the Avs announced tomorrow that they signed Mackenzie Blackwood to a 5-year, $5 million average annual basis deal, I'd be ecstatic. I think he is the next guy for the Avalanche that's going to make $5 million, $6 million on a long-term deal. I thought that guy was going to be Alexander Georgiev until he played his way out of it, right? And Georgiev will have an opportunity to get another long-term deal with the team in the offseason this year, but it's not going to be what we thought it was going to after last season, right? Because then you looked at the whole landscape of the goalies, you're like, well, there's not that many guys out there. He's won a lot of games. Grubauer and Kemper got $5 and $6 million. So like, here's the next dude. Mackenzie Blackwood's that guy. I think you could just double his salary and get there. So 4.6. Would you take that? I would.
Oh, it's a steal. I mean, there's a world, because he looks so good and he's finally playing on a legit team. You look at Decord getting 5 per for 5 years, and if Blackwood plays to the level he should play at, he's a better goaltender than Joey Decord. He is. So I don't know. The sooner you do it, maybe the better. Am I getting ahead of myself? But I think that when you give up an asset in Kovalenko, and the Avs, anytime they've given up assets that they like to go get someone, whether it was Josh Manson or Arturi Lehkonen or Casey Middlestat, they lock those dudes up.
It's a great point.
And I feel like the sooner you do it, the better, because he's only going to get more powerful behind this team, and he's only going to have better starts going forward. His upside's much higher than a Joey Decord. And the longer you wait, that price could go up and up and up. If you got him on a deal similar to the 5 over 5 years, 5 per over 5 years, I think that's a steal. I think that's an absolute steal, because he, at his peak, with this, whatever contract extension he's about to get, the longer it goes and what his upside is, you could start looking at something like $7+ million.
So let's look at the comps right now around the league. Kevin goes, hey, why did the Avs ever let go of Grubauer? Grubauer was a expansion casualty, if I'm correct.
No, he was outright free agent. It was Donskoy.
Donskoy and Burakovsky were the two guys. Donskoy and Burakovsky. Also, Andre Burakovsky only played like 9.5 minutes tonight.
Oh, he's vanished. Hey, look, I could have seen this coming with Burakovsky. I could have.
Where he outplayed his coverage. And
he just got really hot, sniped some goals like in the prime, like in that little prime window of his career. That was a no-brainer to let him go.
That's what most players are, man. That's what most players in any professional league are. You have this little finite window. The vast majority of players who are at the Burakovsky level, who are, again, another level above the average professional athlete, all right? You don't have these 5, 7, 10-year prime windows like we're seeing that like Nathan McKinnon is in the middle of, or that Cale Makar or Mikko Rantanen are in the middle of. The guys who have those prolonged peaks, they're few and far between. Okay, Spring, let's look at these comps for Mackenzie Blackwood. Your goalies that are making $5 million or more this year. I'll throw this player in there. Aiden Hill is making 4.9. He's in the final year of a 2-year deal. Linus Ullmark, $5 million. Robin Leonard, $5 million, who Leonard hasn't played in 2 full seasons and is essentially retired and out of the league. Thatcher Demko is making $5 million. UC Soros is in the final year of his $5 million deal, but obviously got the pay bump in the 7-year extension. That gets him up into like the 7s, if I'm correct. starting next season. Darcy Kemper has 2 more years on a $5.25 million deal. Stop when you hear a goalie that you think Mackenzie Blackwood is better than from here on out. Darcy Kemper.
I think he's better than Darcy Kemper.
Tristan Jarry, 5.375.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, Jarry's, look, we know what's going on with Jarry. You know, he's not that great. He's overpaid.
Elvis Merzlikins, $5.4 million.
Wow. The Jackets gave him, and look, they liked him. Yeah, I mean, Blackwood's up. He's better than Merzlikins for sure.
Philip Grubauer, $5.9 million.
Yeah, see, that's where this market is tough because he's overpaid right now. And yeah, Blackwood's absolutely better than Grubauer.
Jacob Markstrom with New Jersey, $6 million.
I think so. I think if New Jersey could take Blackwood back right now, they'd be foolish not to.
I think you hit that square on the head. And this is where I think that either the conversation stops or it gets really tough. Jordan Binnington, $6 million.
I think Binnington's on the down and Blackwood's on the up. If you look at their line graphs, the sooner you get in on this, the better. Look, you mentioned Linus Ullmark, and he just signed an extension that kicks in next year with Ottawa, 8.25 per for 4 years.
It's a lot.
I think he's on par with Demko.
Demko's got
Vancouver.
1 more year remaining.
And they got him on a contract that he signed several years ago that's at $5 million per. And he's got 1 year after this. If he can keep this up, playing solid in net for Vancouver, he'll get a raise from $5 million.
The other goalies that are around here, I'm going to take John Gibson out of the equation because he signed that year or that deal, back in 2018 or whatever it is. So it is outdated. John Gibson's making 6.4. Now we get into the current extensions, not the ones that are going into effect next year, but the current extensions. Jeremy Swayman, $8.25 million.
He's not living up to that, but
he's been horrible this year.
I would have said he earned every bit of it, though, based on his play last year and where he was at in his career. I mean, and there's the risk. As much as I like the profile of Blackwood, I like the profile of Jeremy Swayman. There's no guarantees that when, you're in your mid to late 20s and you're hitting the prime of your career like Swayman was and is, and Blackwood is, that you're going to carry it over. I think Swayman gets it on track eventually, but so there you go. I'm talking so highly about Blackwood, but there are no guarantees a la Jeremy Swayman.
Completely agree with you. When you get into the $8 million range is when you start talking about goalies that have either won or have been in contention for a Vezina trophy. You mentioned Linus Ullmark signing the 8.25, right? He and Jeremy Swayman with that record-setting year with Boston a couple of seasons ago. In the conversation, Ullmark ends up winning the Vezina that year when he was just insane. He had like a .934 save percentage, something ridiculous that year. Ilya Sorokin, $8.25 million. Vezina Trophy goaltender, first of an 8-year extension. Connor Hellebuck, Vezina Trophy goaltender, first of a 7-year extension at 8.5. So he's not there. Mackenzie Blackwood is not going to be in the $8 million range whatsoever. He's not the goalie that has competed for a Vezina. I think if you believe he can be that guy, it's worth taking the chance of a guy who has been injured in his career and signing him to a long-term 4 or a 5-year deal at $5 million to $6 million and just say, we bet on you. Here's your security blanket. But on the opposite side for the player, you don't get the chance to do this little bridge deal and then go make 8.25 because, well, then you've played your way out of Colorado. And I don't think Sakic and McFarland want to keep doing this carousel ride.
I think this is it. I think this is the guy. This is the goaltender that you commit money that maybe you didn't want to give Grubauer or Kemper, who were aging, who were approaching their early 30s, if not already in their early 30s, whereas Blackwood is 28. So you got a good 4-ish year window here with him. I'm looking at the free agent crop, what's going to be available in the offseason. Obviously, Shesterkin is off the board. You mentioned Adin Hill. That's, to me, looking at this, that's by far and away the best option out there. You've got Vanacek, Jake Allen, Freddie Anderson.
Three of those guys have played in New Jersey, and New Jersey's still trying to figure out who their starter is. It's nuts.
Sure. And then Blackwood's better than all these guys. Freddie Anderson when he's right, but he's getting older. And he's hurt a lot. Vamelka, who we saw with the hockey club, maybe he's your sneak guy.
Veggie's legit. That guy scares the shit out of me every time I see him in net.
He's got upside, but maybe, Utah, I think Connor Ingram's a free agent, so maybe you could throw Ingram out there, but Utah's probably looking at Vamelka as their goaltender of the future. I'm not so sure about Ingram right now. Jonathan Quick's going to be a free agent at damn near 40 years old or whatever the heck it is.
I think Quickie retires this season.
Charlie Lindgren's having a solid year with the Capitals.
That's what I'm saying. Like if the Avs,
Blackwood's the best name out of all the guys I mentioned.
Spring, if the Avs don't re-sign him soon, don't extend him soon, I worry that he's so like the tandem right now is so solid that this team's going to get to where they want to be. Like this team is good enough and deep enough and strong enough with competent goaltending to be a Western Conference favorite, without a doubt. And if they get there, you run the risk of like Blackwood's agent being in his ear and going, hey, look at the rest of the guys. Like, you don't think you're as good as Adin Hill is right now? You don't think you're better than Connor Ingram is, right? With all of the want of goaltending around the league, you're gonna run into the issue of him seeing this free agent market and going, well, I could probably go get 6.5 in the market. If you want him around, you gotta work on extending him yesterday.
I don't think that Ilya Nabokov is realistic next year, and certainly not as a true number one. I mean, I like the makings of this kid, but that screams of Onanen 2.0. If you rush him into too high of a role too soon, like the window is now. The guy, you just acquired him. It's Blackwood. This is the time after all these years, and I don't think it's going to be a break the bank contract, but it's going to be the most you've invested in a goaltender in this window, even if it's just by $500,000 or so. What, Kemper was like 4.5, Grubauer was in that window. You might have to go 5. You might have to, maybe even a touch north. I don't know, but whatever they were afraid of paying Grubauer, afraid of paying Kemper, they were aging. Blackwood's coming into his prime. Now is the time. It's time to shore up the goaltending room.
5x5 feels really nice to me. That just feels cozy.
It feels like that could be a steal a year from now. We could look back on that a year from now and be like, that was a steal. What's more important? That they finally get short to long term, because 4 years, however you want to classify that as. I'll say long term stability in net, or a Mikko Rantanen contract.
I don't think it's going to be either or. He's not that level of goaltender right now, right? Like, it becomes an either or situation when he is Ullmark, Swayman, Hellebuck, Gibson, Demko after next year, guys who have been there, done that, won games, been in the Vezina conversation or won them. Then it becomes this or that, but he's not that goalie right now. Like, he's never been that goalie. He has all of the potential in the world, and I think he's the guy of the future, but that's not what contracts are typically given out for. Is here, this is what we think you can be. Not many times do teams do that. I don't think you're going to have to make the decision. I think you could sign him on a 5x5 and still get Rantanen in the door at $12.5 over $8 million, but $12.5 million over 8 years to get him up to that $100 million threshold. I don't know what Mikko's situation is. Like, if he wants 14, man, the team needs to know before March.
And Scott Wedgwood under contract through next season as well. I mean, that's very clutch. I want at least one more season of the Woodshed as the tandem. I'm all in on the woodshed. You get Blackwood to 4 to 5 years relatively soon. You're guaranteed to have the woodshed back next year. Who knows what the room behind Blackwood, assuming all goes to this plan, looks like 2 years from now. But, I mean, they can shore up their goaltending room for the rest of this season and next season if they extend Mackenzie Blackwood. And look, he wasn't asked to do a hell of a whole lot tonight, but I'm telling you, man, this to me was a how the hell did the Avs lose this game type night, knowing that they had Blackwood behind them at home. And that's exactly what happened. They won this game. They are a different team with this goaltending room right now.
They certainly are. They've won 7 of their last 9. They continue to climb in the standings. It's completely different to watch what they're doing. They now have 42 points in 36 games. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10. They've won 3 straight. For the first time, for the first time this season, if I'm correct, the Avalanche have a plus minus.
In terms of their goal differential? Yes, they are a +1. Look at that green.
+1.
Look at that +1 on goal differential. Started from the bottom, started from the depths of hell, and now we're here. Oh my gosh, we're ascending. Let's go.
42 points. They're 4 points clear of Dallas, although Dallas only has 32 games played. Those will be shored up pretty soon. I think the more impressive one is you look at Minnesota ahead of you at 44 points, and they only have 2 games in hand. We were talking about, can you be the 3 seed in the division? Minnesota is slowly getting pushed down. You're slowly ascending to where they are. Dallas is an issue. They will be an issue. I think by the time that January is over and these games start to even out between those 3 teams, you'll see Dallas slotted in at the 2nd, the Avs solidly in at the 3rd, and the final 2.5 months of the season are going to be a battle to see who gets home ice advantage in what's going to be a first-round series. Unfortunately, because the NHL are a bunch of fucking idiots, a first-round series between the Stars and the Avs.
Yeah, the Avs scored 121 goals, have allowed 120 goals. The only other team in the West who has allowed north of 120 goals is the Sharks, who have allowed 129. And Blackwood was admirable for them, but there's only so much you can do. Hell, they've allowed a ton since he's left. Georgiev has allowed quite a few for San Jose here recently. So that +1, that's going up. That's going up. That goals allowed is going to start to taper more towards the mean, and the goals for is going to go up. Winnipeg scored the most goals in the West at 128. The Avs have scored the 2nd most goals in the West at 121. That goal differential is going to go up. And now they're in Utah on Friday, and you talk about the dumbass NHL. The Avs can't travel on Boxing Day, the day before this game, the 26th. So the Avs are going to have to travel Friday morning, the day of the game, to Utah. Now, fortunately, it's a pretty quick flight. I mean, Arizona previously was a pretty quick flight. Salt Lake City, not the longest flight as well. Look, the last time they played Utah, it was the first game after that 5-game road trip, and the Avs were back at home. And I thought maybe, I was a little worried about the 5th leg of that road trip. They'd won 3 out of 4, and they were in Pittsburgh. But, the 5th game of a 5-game roadie, your legs can start to wear a little bit. That was not the case with the Avs. They knocked the pants off of the Penguins. They won, going away in that game. But then you maybe felt the effect of that long road trip when they returned home, back to altitude, long time at sea level. Okay, now you got another weird travel situation, this time going to Utah. But hey, this is altitude to altitude. This is elevation to elevation here. And they will have days off leading up to this day of flight. The hockey club was able to steal one, I think, due to some scheduling in Colorado. Now you go steal it right back. In Utah, who's playing well. But you go get that back and you go on a 4-game win streak. That's what's going to happen here on Friday. I'm not scared about this day of flight at all. They're going to return the favor for the traveling weirdness that they faced with Utah not too long ago.
Yeah, they had so many road games over the last month and a half, and you're about to rattle off a whole bunch of home games. I believe 9 of their next 14 are in the friendly confines of Ball Arena, and they've just been floundering around 500 this year's spring. So it's a sight for sore eyes, a sight for weary legs, and guys who are longing for their own beds in their own homes. But that's going to do it for us tonight, and for us prior to Christmas. We're going to be off until Friday when the Avs take on the Utah Hockey Club. As Spring mentioned, a 7 p.m. pregame show on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5, a 7:30 p.m. puck drop, and then Spring and I will be on air sometime around 10 or 10:30 that night. But it's a nice, happy goodbye into the holiday season for all of you guys. We are thankful for everyone who's been here with us every single step of the way, whether it's been on air, here on digital, on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, out at remote events live when Spring are out there, or Spring and I are out there around the people. We love you guys so much. We're so thankful for all of you. Spring, thanks for holding down the fort when I'm gone every now and again. And as always, doing a great show. So for our friends at Safeway, for all of us at Altitude
Merry
Sports
Christmas,
Radio,
everybody.
we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Maxie Miner says Merry Christmas.
And we'll see you guys on Friday. See ya.